Hello, Crossroads Community Church. It's great to come together, to come and look at God's Word, and as we walk the good road. Today, I want to share with you from Mark chapter 4. We call it War Club Tells a Good Story, chapter 4. As we look into this journey, I read through this chapter over and over this week, and what stuck out to me was that it was all about growing. It was all about seeds, growth, and this journey. So I've been taking some time. Crazy week to do this because it's going to be the coldest weekend maybe of our winter. Hopefully it's the coldest weekend of our winter. But as we're in this polar vortex, I started thinking about gardening. And so we've uploaded worship. You can listen to it. And we looked at This Is My Father's World. And then How Great Thou Art, When Through the Woods and Forest Glades I Wander. We sang I Come to the Garden Alone. And then ending off with Put Your Hand in the Hand of the One Who Stilled the Water. So as I was thinking through this chapter, one of the things that's really come very close to me is connection to land and connection to creation. Land has always been really important to me. What land we live on. When Al and I travel, we look at land, the landscape, what's the differences, how do people live on the land. And as I was reading through this, one of the things I remembered Randy Woodley talked about, that when Jesus gave examples, he used creation to help the people around him understand the meaning even of parables. When he talked in parables, when he told people to look at things, it was usually the land and creation that Jesus referred to. Jesus was a carpenter, and so he could have talked about building things, he could have talked about mechanics, he could have talked about structures, but he often went to land, and that we can learn from creation itself. And so in Mark chapter 4, no different. He gives the seed planter tells the story, and we look at this meaning of the seed planter's story. And so we see the seed planter goes out and puts seeds out, and which ones reap a harvest? Well, if you're a gardener, it makes sense which ones have a harvest, the ones that go into good soil. We plant a community garden. Well, we don't. We have an amazing volunteer, John, who plants our community garden. And if those seeds went onto the spaces where he walked along, they're not going to grow well. If he plants those seeds in the rocks, they're not going to grow well. If those seeds are planted where there's lots of thistles and where we don't pull up the weeds, and if it's all weeds and we don't turn over that soil with a rototiller in the spring, we're not going to get a great harvest. Those are all lessons. If you take time to garden, you're already going to know. And so Jesus isn't telling us something we don't know. He's telling us to look at creation and learn again what we need to know. And in fact, he says that this is how we're going to be released from our broken ways. And we're not released from our broken ways because we just don't want to take time to learn. Or we want to do our own thing, and so we don't want to take the time to learn. Wow. It was so powerful again this week to just sit in these stories and understand that the good road is not a road that we can't find. It's sometimes a road we choose not to find because we want to be in those spaces where it's easier to be. We don't want to pick the rocks. We don't want to turn over the soil. We don't want to wait for growth on the journey. And so this good road is a road of journey. we read in the worship set about the mustard seed, or the seeds that are planted and we don't see what's going on. In this winter time, you can plant bulbs in the fall and they're going to be covered throughout the winter. So when the spring comes, those first bulbs are going to come up and those tulips are going to bloom. And they've been doing their thing all through these cold winter months. And we don't see that, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. And so as we travel this good road together, growth comes on that journey. One of the other things as I've been thinking about growth and creation is a book I read last summer. I spent time and read just a chapter a week because it was so deep, and it was Braiding Sweetgrass, and it really talks about how we so often get disconnected from creation. That we live in creation, we understand maybe the science of creation, but we don't see creation as our partner and all the land around us. And one of the quotes I wanted to share with you was from the chapter on Epiphany in the Beans. And a great chapter. I'm not going to share it all, but one of the things that Robin Wall Kimmerer says near the end of this chapter, I wonder if much that ails our society stems from the fact that we have allowed ourselves to be cut off from the love of and from the land. It is medicine for broken land and empty hearts. And then she ends the chapter. People often ask me what one thing I would recommend to restore relationship between land and people. My answer is almost always, plant a garden. It's good for the health of the earth, and it's good for the health of people. A garden is a nursery for nursing connection, the soil for cultivation of practical reverence, and its power goes far beyond the garden gate. Once you develop a relationship with a little patch of earth, it becomes a seed itself. The seed planter who plants those seeds is expecting a harvest. Creator has planted the seeds. Creator wants a harvest. And so for you and I, it's about how do we grow on this good road together. Will you join me in this journey of growth? As we grow, even in these winter months, can we grow together so that we will see a great harvest for the kingdom? God bless you. Have a great week.